Part 68. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 671. YZ Sneak Attack. The port is finished. Lin Yi has seen the scene of the port, which is in a mess, and shook his head slightly. Wanjin City is in chaos, and many people have begun to pack up their belongings and prepare to escape. In the peaceful era, real estate is the biggest asset, but now, gold and silver are the things that can be taken away. Wanjin City has changed from a prosperous city to a place that everyone avoids overnight. A large number of people are leaving quickly, and a message is spreading in the city. YZ troops appeared at the port and are about to come to Wanjin City. Once they enter Wanjin City, they will be the meat in the hands of the other party, and it will be impossible to get rid of them. If they don't leave now, they will be caught by the YZ people. It would be strange if those YZ people don't beat them up and drain their wealth. The streets are already blocked by cars, and a large number of people are leaving. And the guards in Wanjin City have quickly gathered and headed for the port. No one knows what the situation is at the port. The capital of the gods Tianqinghai. The head of country H was ready to go and sat in his office. He was about to go live, but was woken up in the middle of the night. After receiving news from all sides, his first reaction was disbelief. Then came endless anger. Obviously, all this was planned. He sat in the office and adjusted his emotions. He looked at the photographer in front of him calmly and nodded to him. Let's start. Everyone. Omitted. Everyone knew that the war was not fake. There were evacuation vehicles everywhere in Wanjin City, and the whole city seemed to have become an empty city in a short time. At least more than half of the people will leave, and most of those who stay are lonely. They have long looked down on life and death and are unwilling to leave their hometown. At this time, everyone in the Wanchaiwu also had a strange look on their faces, listening to the content on the radio. They had just escaped from the apocalyptic war in the Red Lotus realm, but they didn't expect to encounter the situation here again. Absinthe said gloatingly, "These humans are just like dogs that never change their bad habits. Weapons are indispensable to them." Brandy shook his head and said, "We have just come to this world and need a stable environment. This war happened to affect us. Our business will be in trouble next. We don't rely on these businesses to make a living. What does it matter whether it is troublesome or not?" Lafitte Redwine sat at the bar, holding a glass of fine wine, and said drunkenly. Sakuramiya surely also looked at the pictures in the news with a serious face. "We can't go out here now, and we can't use supernatural powers. If someone finds us here and these people rush in, it will be more troublesome to deal with. Even if we eliminate them, if they attack here with weapons outside, it will not be fun." Hearing this, everyone was stunned for a moment, and then looked at Lin Yi. Lin Yi raised his eyelids when he heard this. "Don't worry, the Wanchaiwu has been integrated into the infinite space and the crown of guilty. One is mainly for attack and the other is mainly for defense. They can still play a role even in this world that devours all spirituality. At that time, I can make this area an inaccessible dead place, and those people will naturally dare not come in. There is no problem with our safety, just rest assured. But my original plan will be broken." Originally, Lin Yi wanted to further deduce and learn the martial arts system of this world. But now this sudden war incident broke his plan. After all, he can only leave the Wanchaiwu with his clone. It is also a flesh and blood body. If it is discovered by those Yingzhou people outside, it will be very troublesome. Although he can use the true destiny, he hopes to complete his goals and plans quietly as much as possible. Let's wait and see. If it doesn't work, we can just move to another place. With the strange power accumulated in the past few days and the accumulation in the past, it is not impossible for the Wanchaiwu to move again. But if we want to leave, we need to choose a good place. We can't choose a place where war is easy to start." As he said, he looked at Jin, Where do you think H country is the safest? Jin thought for a while and said with a smile, if it's safe, then it's only the capital of the gods. After all, it is the center of the imperial capital, but every inch of land is worth a lot of money. It's not easy to take root there, and there are spies everywhere, monitoring people going in and out at any time. Once you find a problem, if you have any questions, you will be taken away immediately. The second is Xuanhuan Landscape City, which is an inland city. It is a basin surrounded by mountains, with a pleasant climate. Historically, there are few wars and it has great strategic depth. So if you want to find a peaceful place, it is not bad, but the economy is not as developed as that of coastal cities like Wanjin City. Lin Yi nodded. Chengdu and Landscape City? They can be considered. Let's see the situation first. I don't want to move the Wanchaiwu. It's not easy to accumulate weird power in this world. The Wish Shrine has not been activated in the past few days. Every night, the weird existences that connect to the other world have been basically cleared out by the maze guards. The transformed strange power was stored, and a small part of it was accumulated while maintaining the operation of the Wanchaiwu. In the current Wanchaiwu, Lin Yi directly reduced 7 floors of rooms upstairs, leaving only the second and third floors. The underground maze was also reduced to a radius of 1 kilometer, because a lot of strange power was needed to maintain a large area. And this consumption is continuous, given the current environmental problems. Lin Yi quickly reduced the strange power consumption of the Wanchaiwu, mainly using the strange power for accumulation. To activate the arbitrary door and the mobile black stone slab, a lot of strange power is also needed. 2 hours passed in a blink of an eye, and the roar outside Wanjin City kept approaching the city. Lin Yi's eyes flashed with the brilliance of the true destiny solution, observing the outside. YZ's people have arrived, and Wanjinchin's guard team has also begun to arrange defenses. A brutal conflict is about to happen. However, Wanjinchin is at an absolute disadvantage, because the opponent is fully armed, and they are just ordinary guard teams left behind. Everyone in Wanjin City knew about this, especially the natives in the possible conflict area, who also looked unhappy. Some people who originally did not want to leave had to pack up and evacuate the area quickly. The notice from the guard teams also quickly spread throughout the area. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 672. Governor Zhang Tianyu stood in his office in an office building in the center of Wanjin City. He looked into the distance, which was the direction of the YZ army. There was a hint of joy in his eyes. Is it finally here? Then we must occupy Wanjin City as soon as possible. The plan has finally started. As long as all the martial arts masters of H country are eliminated. If the foundation of martial arts is destroyed, humans will eventually be lambs to be slaughtered. They can only be our food and carriers. They will never have a chance to turn over and be the masters in this era. Zhang Tianyu's eyes were cold, without any human emotions. He was a high-ranking celestial being, a completely different species from humans. From ancient times to the present, they were originally worshipped by humans, but one day things changed. Humans began to resist them, and problems arose among them, which eventually led to their loss of control over humans. And humans also stole the power of the mind from them, making them become stray dogs instead. This hatred will never disappear. As one of the reborn celestial beings, their plan to destroy the world has just begun. We are immortal beings with long lives. You short-lived species want to resist us? As long as you weaken once, we will seize the opportunity. We will not give you another chance to stand up, just one chance. Zhang Tianyu's face flashed with a cold smile. His eyes were indifferent, as if he saw the day when they stood above humans again. Dong dong dong. There was a knock on the door outside, and Zhang Tianyu said calmly, "Come in." Soon a secretary in a black suit came in. "My lord, everything is ready?" The systems of Wanjin City have been controlled by us and can be taken under control at any time. Go and prepare. I want to see their desperate expressions. A cruel sneer appeared on Zhang Tianyu's face. As celestial beings, what they like most is to play with the hearts of these humans. Give them pain, and then they can draw strength from the painful hearts of humans. That is the power of the heart. The most basic emotions of living beings, happiness and pain, are the most essential fluctuations of the heart. And what this kind of fluctuation produces is the power of the mind, which is the favorite food of their gods. At this time, all the systems in Wanjin City, big and small, were controlled by some strangers. They quickly mobilized the power of the city and implemented strict control over Wanjin City. Some fully armed strangers appeared in various places in Wanjin City. Except for the area occupied by the Wanjin City Guard team, the entire Wanjin City fell into a strange silence and was controlled by a group of strangers. The citizens who were originally leaving were also driven back by these people who appeared from nowhere. Only some people escaped from here. Anyone who disobeyed was directly eliminated, which aroused everyone's fear. However, in the face of the threat of pure death, most people chose to compromise. Only a few people intended to resist, but their results were usually not good. The bloody traces on the ground showed what their fate would be. After the strange changes in Wanjin City appeared, they were quickly spread, causing an uproar. And soon, the mastermind behind all this was exposed. The governor of Wanjin City, Zhang Tianyu, appeared in the sight of countless people. Everything was led by him. Countless voices of condemnation sounded everywhere, a shameful betrayer. But Zhang Tianyu didn't care about these. Since he announced his control of Wanjin City, the plan of the heavenly people has been officially launched. In Wanjin City, the leader of the Wanjin City team, Qian Menglong, who was preparing to fight the enemy, was livid. He had received a notice from the rear. Damn Zhang Tianyu, how dare he? How dare he? This damn traitor. Qian Menglong was a middle-aged man about 40 years old, with dark skin, thick eyebrows and big eyes, and a face that was chiseled by a knife and an axe. Although he was not very handsome, he was also tall and mighty. In front of him was a map of Wanjin City, which was densely packed with dozens of red dot areas. These red dots blocked dozens of streets in his direction, forming a tight network. Anyone who wanted to break in would have to pay a huge price. And at this time, a man about 30 years old stood next to him. Wang Jinai, the man known as the Iron Wall of Wanjin, suppressed the god-level masters of the entire Wanjin City. At this time, he narrowed his eyes and looked at Qian Menglong. I'm afraid this Zhang Tianyu is no longer the original Zhang Tianyu. Qian Menglong raised his head suddenly when he heard this and looked at Wang Jinai. You mean? He was taken away by the celestial being. Wang Jinai said, it is very likely, but the biggest problem now is what should we do? I can feel a huge danger forming in Wanjin City. If I guess correctly, they are controlling the order and power of the entire Wanjin City. Once it is completed, we will have no backup. YZ in front has blocked our way. If we are cut off from behind, we will be trapped in a dream. This war is no longer just an ordinary battle of weapons, the celestial being has intervened. This is a war between humans and celestial beings. Wang Jinai's eyes were pure, and he saw the essence of the whole incident directly, and also knew who their enemy was. For the time being, I will be in charge here, and the power of the gods cannot enter this area. At least I can guarantee that your hearts will be safe. Qian Menglong nodded, with you here, at least I don't have to worry about the affairs of the gods for the time being. But our current situation is indeed very critical. The longer the time drags on, the more disadvantageous it will be for us, and the enemy will have more and more people. Now we have only two choices. First, hold on to this area, do our best to hold back the enemy and those traitors, and wait for reinforcements to arrive. 200 kilometers away is the headquarters of the Eastern District, and the reinforcements there may have already set off. Second, we retreat and give up Wanjin City completely. After joining the reinforcements, we will launch a counterattack again and take back Wanjin City. Mr. Wang, which choice do you think is better? Qian Menglong looked at Wang Jinai, with a trace of sadness in his eyes. Wang Jinai thought for a while and said slowly. Once the first plan is implemented, we will face a difficult battle. The result will probably be heavy casualties, and it will also cause great damage to Wanjin City. And there are celestial beings behind this. If they drive the people to attack, what do you think we should do? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 673. Qian Menglong's expression suddenly changed when he heard this. No way, how dare they do such a thing? A sneer appeared on Wang Jinai's face. I have never doubted the terror of heavenly beings. They are another race, and human life has never been taken seriously by them. The advantage of the second plan is that we can avoid a fierce battle, and at the same time, it can also prevent the people of Wanjin City from encountering possible dangers. But the disadvantages are also obvious. Once we evacuate, we will send a message to all the people in Wanjin City that we have given up here. Secondly, YZ will accept a complete Wanjin City, and all the wealth in the city will be plundered by them, and it will also be a huge blow to us. Both plans have their own pros and cons, and both Wang Jinai and Qian Menglong fell into silence for a short time. At this moment, Qian Menglong's secretary suddenly broke in outside the temporary headquarters. Sir, orders from the Eastern District. Qian Menglong's brows jumped, a gleam flashed in his eyes, and he looked at his secretary. Tell me, what is the order? The Eastern District's order is for us to hold on to Wanjin City. We must not allow YZ and the traitors to successfully occupy Wanjin City. We must stop them here and wait for reinforcements to arrive. We need to hold on for 24 hours. Qian Menglong took a deep breath when he heard this and looked at Wang Jinai. It seems we don't need to choose. The decision has been made for us from above. Wang Jinai nodded slightly. In Wanjin City, there should be several young martial arts masters who have touched the spiritual level this time. I will send an invitation to them with my martial will later. I don't know if they are willing to come. If they come, our suppression of heavenly beings will go even further. Our people will be safer as well. Qian Menglong took a deep breath and said, I'll leave everything to Mr. Wang. Leave the mortal battlefield to me, and the heavenly battlefield is up to you. Don't worry, as long as I'm still alive, heavenly beings won't even think about stepping into the battlefield. Wang Jinai looked calm at this time, and his whole person fell into a state of complete silence. His mind was clearer than ever before, and he could feel the crises coming from all directions at every moment, making his body tremble instinctively. There are countless weapons here that can kill him, and this unprecedented sense of crisis stimulates his soul. It made his mind more sensitive, and he could even feel the malice coming from the Wanjin City. Celestial beings. You finally came out. Then let me teach you how powerful you are. This is no longer the past. Humanity's technology has become extremely materialized and its research capabilities are powerful. The most difficult part in the past, the strong support for the body, is no longer difficult. The large-scale popularization of martial arts in the secular world has made more people qualified to touch the spiritual level. This is the process in which material civilization develops to its extreme and begins to contact spiritual civilization. This is your last chance. Once you fail, your family will never have any room to turn around. You will become human experimental materials and eventually be placed on the experimental table. This is a battle for racial survival, and Wang Jinai sees it very clearly. 10 kilometers outside the third ring road of Wanjinchinj, the YZ army was resting and regrouping to complete final preparations. The commander of vanguard, Jungler Yoshida, was facing many of his generals. Everyone, victory or defeat depends on this moment. Get ready. In the everything room, Lin Yi frowned, and the TV was already in a state of snowflakes. TV signals have been cut off in Wanjinchinj, and no one can accept news from the outside world. But there is also a radio in the everything room at this time, which can also play the latest news. The latest news is that the reinforcements from the eastern district are currently heading towards Wanjinchinj. News items were continuously broadcast on various radio stations. Lin Yi listened quietly, frowning slightly. At this time, his clone has completed the first stage of martial arts in this world. All the muscles, bones, skin, flesh, and internal organs in the body have undergone qualitative changes. Except for the bone marrow and blood, they have all reached their maximum strength. He even awakened some minor abilities of the 365 talents. Although these abilities can only operate inside his body, they are still very amazing. With his current physical condition, even if he jumped from a 10-meter high building, there would be no damage. It can easily break granite and even steel. A frontal punch can reach an impact of 3 tons, which is almost the physical limit of human beings. But Lin Yi knew because his bone marrow and blood had not changed yet. At most, he can only exert 70% of the current power of this body. It's a bit troublesome now. Wanjinchinj is in chaos. It's impossible to learn the secrets of martial arts. Really, if you don't start early, you won't start late, but now you are causing trouble for me. Lin Yi's eyes showed impatience and a hint of anger. He looked at the time and saw that it was now 11:30. Oh, forget it, let's talk about it tomorrow. At this time, everyone in Wanchaiwu was resting or having fun. Although Wanjing City was about to fall into war, it had no impact on them. Absinthe, vodka, brandy, Lafite, and other 4 people were sitting at a table playing poker. Sakuramiya Shirley was sitting in a separate seat, flipping through a book in her hand. She was studying some Taoist scriptures obtained from Beiwa Fairy Palace. There are quite a lot of explanations of the world in it, which helps her understand the composition of the world. As for Lao Wei, he was sitting in another position, holding a glass of wine in his hand, tasting it gently. At the same time, his ears were erected, listening to the news in the recorder. His cultivation level was only the 2nd level of the human immortal way, and he could not completely ignore heavy weapons. At most, he could only resist ordinary guns and grenades. Lin Yi glanced at them. It's almost 12 o'clock, everyone should get ready to rest, and leave it to the maze guard tonight. Everyone nodded when they heard it, put down their things, walked to the 2nd floor, and returned to their rooms. There was only Lin Yi's clone in the hall, and his real body had been practicing in the bedroom. The tribulation of all things is not easy. Now he has to use a substance to wash his spirituality every day. It is not easy to attract various material particles directly from the void. In this process, a lot of energy is consumed. When using substances to wash the spirituality, it will cause spiritual damage. At this time, the energy of the sky crystal will be activated to repair the spiritual damage. In this process, each wash will cause severe pain at the soul level, which is a pain that cannot be described in words. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 674. Every moment he experiences a pain that seems to suck the marrow out of his bones. Every inch of his soul seems to be torn apart, and this pain initially shocked Lin Yi. Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow. From the time he entered the path of cultivation to now, he has never experienced such a painful cultivation process. It has always been smooth sailing, without any pain. Unlike all other practitioners, he has to face various dangers since he entered the path of ghost immortals. Because he has the bug level power protection of the true destiny. When going through various dangers, he can rely on the true destiny to get through them calmly. Although there is some pain, it is completely different from practicing the tribulation of all things. For example, he once encountered the ninefold thunder tribulation. If the level of pain he experienced during that thunder tribulation is divided into 1, then the pain of the spirituality washed away by the tribulation of all things is 100. There is a 100-fold gap between them, and ordinary people simply cannot withstand such damage. Now, with the help of the heavenly crystal, whenever Lin Yi couldn't bear the pain, he would stop flushing and use the heavenly crystal to repair it immediately. His progress was very slow because the pain delayed his steps. For the first time, Lin Yi became alert to his practice because he found his own problems. His will did not seem to be as firm as other practitioners, and he had not always endured the pain in practice. And the tribulation of all things was gradually making up for what he had not experienced in the past. Let him feel the pain of practice, and every day he felt that his will was getting more and more accustomed to the pain. Every time the material particles flushed the spirituality, it not only brought pain, but also a feeling of being on the verge of death at any time. In this feeling of pain and death, it was easier to feel that his will was constantly growing. Just like a metal that had been tempered 1,000 times, it became more and more pure and transparent. This was a wonderful feeling and experience that made him completely immersed in practice. But even in practice, he was also multitasking, controlling his clone to understand the world. He also saw that Wanjin City was about to become a war zone. After waking up from this practice, a trace of solemnity flashed in his eyes. I hope it won't affect the Wanchai-Wu. But the power system collection of this world seems to be greatly affected. Shaking his head slightly, Lin Yi slowly closed his eyes and continued to practice for the next time. At 1 o'clock in the morning, the YZ army slowly moved and slowly approached Wanjin City. At this time, Qianmenglong's temporary command center also received the news of their approach. A trace of solemnity appeared in his eyes and he picked up the phone in his hand. All soldiers, please pay attention, the enemy is approaching us. Once the enemy enters our area, immediately launch a free attack. Our mission is to hold on for 24 hours and wait for the arrival of reinforcements. Wanjin City is only ours, gentlemen, I wish you good luck in martial arts. Qianmenglong's voice was low and powerful, full of determination. And Wang Jinai, who was standing next to him, slowly opened his eyes, and a spiritual fire burned in his eyes. A breath of extreme cruelty permeated from his body, rushing straight into the void like a wolf smoke. This is not a tangible force, but a pure spiritual flame, like a scorching sun, illuminating the entire area. All the warriors in this area felt as if their hearts were injected with a stream of heat, and their bodies were full of strength. Everyone was inspired by Qianmenglong's voice, and at the same time they felt that there was a force protecting them. In the YZ army, the commander Yashida's face was solemn, and there was a figure like a god or a demon in the depths of his eyes, quietly looking in the direction of Wanjin City. He saw the fire there like the scorching sun, and a scorching sun was rising from the earth. This sun was burning itself madly, as if it wanted to burn out all its flames and burn everything. A trace of solemnity appeared on his face. Is this the God General among humans? Sun God King Wang Jinai. Such a powerful mind, has it begun to affect reality? Has a master of this level been born among humans? Thinking of this, a trace of solemnity and coldness suddenly appeared in his eyes. His hero is my enemy, Wang Jinai, you must die. The saint knows that for humans to cultivate to this level, they need countless tempering and talent, as well as opportunities. So one less dead is one less. As long as you are all killed, humans will be lambs to be slaughtered and have no resistance. He, Yashida's eyes showed a cold smile, as if he was carrying out some vicious plan. He looked at the subordinate next to him. The other party also had an inhuman aura on his body. Obviously, he was also one of his fellow celestial beings. Notify Shirai and let him transport some humans here. I will use them as meat shields to wear down the spirit of these enemies. Make them angry, expose their position, and then kill them. The subordinate next to him looked indifferent. Yes, sir. Watching his subordinates disappear in the command center to convey orders. Yoshida's face was covered with a cold smile, and his eyes were full of murderous intent. After only a quarter of an hour, a violent roar sounded in the distance, and a trace of solemnity appeared in his eyes. Weapons have almost made all flesh and blood bodies have no advantages. Unless you can enter the realm of saintly enlightenment, it is almost impossible to survive in a fully armed warrior. But we, the celestial beings, roam the spiritual world, and the flesh is just virtual and can be replaced at will. Weapons have no great effect on us. But if we let them continue to develop, they may really be able to research weapons that will restrain us in the future. So we must control the development of mankind in our hands and take back the glory that belongs to us. 100 years of worry, today is the beginning. No one can stop us. Open the sealed nodes on the land one by one, and those traitors will definitely pay the price. Yoshida's eyes were full of cold murderous intent, as if he hated the traitors who had appeared among the celestial beings. 5,000 years, 5,000 years of loneliness, where are you? Great God! Countless roars sounded in the north of Wanjin City, and countless people could not sleep all night. At this time, in the Wanchi house had been connected to the other world again, and the strange existence began to invade the Wanchi house again. But with the maze guards, all this was easily solved. His eyes flashed with the light of the true destiny, passing through the Wanchi house and the other world, and fell in Wanjin City. The house of everything I created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 675. Lin Yi saw countless flames rising in the city, and 1/5 of Wanjin City was shrouded in smoke. Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow. He couldn't help but frowned. The Wanchaiwu is only 100 meters away from the war zone, it's easy to reach here. Just as he frowned, a flame fell from the sky and hit the top of the Wanchaiwu. Rumble. The whole Wanchaiwu shook slightly, but Wanchaiwu was not hurt. Because the power of the infinite maze has been integrated with the surrounding space. The flames and impact only splashed on the Wanchaiwu, and finally only a pile of debris fell on the roof of the Wanchaiwu. Other than that, there was no impact. However, Lin Yi's face was slightly condensed. This was the first time that the Wanchaiwu was directly attacked from the outside. At this time, Lin Yi looked towards Wanjin City, where a strange thing happened. The mysterious people who appeared in Wanjin City were driving some ordinary people to board trucks. These trucks left Wanjin City from another direction, and then made a big turn to the back of the YZ army. Lin Yi thought, it seems that they are planning to drive ordinary people to attack the front line, which is really insidious. At this time, in Wanjin City, Tang Long was sitting alone in a high-altitude hotel. Holding a bottle of Lao Baigan in his hand, he was drinking fiercely, and his whole body was filled with the smell of alcohol. He sat in front of the French window, looking at the orange-red light rising in the distance. All the situations there fell into his eyes. There was a decadent atmosphere on his body. Since tonight, he has been drinking here, just like a useless person. I'm sorry for you. I'm a selfish villain. I'm sorry, I can't let my mother die. She has died for me once, I can't let her die a second time. Since ancient times, it has been difficult to be both loyal and filial, please forgive me. Woo woo. Perhaps he was talking to himself, and tears came out of his eyes. I don't know if it was regret, sadness, or madness. Watching his hometown, which he had protected for a lifetime, fall into crisis because of his behavior. For Tang Long, this was a huge blow. This blow even made him a little mentally collapsed, but he had to bear it. Just when he deeply regretted and suffered for his behavior, a door appeared in front of him. Tang Long thought he was dazzled at first, and after a moment of stunned, he wiped his eyes with his right hand. Then he was horrified to find that there was really a door in front of him, and at this time he found that this door seemed familiar. But he couldn't remember where he had seen this door, and his mind was full of alcohol, making his consciousness blurred. Instinctively, he felt that there seemed to be something behind the door attracting him. He slowly reached out his hand, grabbed the door handle, and then pushed it open suddenly. Ring, ring, ring. A ring rang slowly. What's wrong? He fell to the ground. The alcohol anesthetized his body, making him unable to move. At this time, a figure appeared in front of him, and a familiar voice sounded in his ears. Welcome to the Xuanhuan. Do you have any wishes that you want me to help you realize? Tang Long looked up at the shadow in front of him, and the one standing in front of him was the spiritual clone. Tang Long's pupils shrank, and a cold sweat broke out all over his body in an instant. Part of the alcohol in his body was discharged at once, and he suddenly sobered up from drunkenness. He rolled over and got up from the ground, looking around with vigilance. This was the coffee shop he passed by a few days ago. Here? Who are you? Tang Long was tense all over, and looked at Lin Yi with caution. At this time, there was a faint mist floating in the Xuanhuan, and there was a strange coldness. It was this coldness that made Tang Long break out in a cold sweat and wake up from his drowsiness. At this time, Lin Yi still looked at him with a smile. This is the Xuanhuan, a place that can connect to countless worlds. I can help most people realize their wishes, and then collect corresponding rewards from them. The reason why you came here is because you have a strong desire in your heart. You have a wish to realize, so you will see me. Looking at your body full of alcohol, I think you are also drinking to relieve your sorrow. If you have any questions, why not sit here and talk slowly? Tang Long listened to Lin Yi's words and seemed to understand. The Xuanhuan now is a little cold, which has caused a strong stimulation to his originally drunken body. He thought about it, suddenly sighed, and sat in the position where he had sat before. Looking at Ling Yi opposite him, countless emotions flashed in his eyes. Looking out the French window, he saw a strange world shrouded in mist, always so strange and terrifying. A trace of surprise appeared in his eyes. What is that place? Lin Yi looked at him calmly with a faint smile on his face. That is a place called the other world. Just as he was speaking, a strange creature appeared in the mist. It was a strange creature with 6 legs, crawling on the ground, with a neck as long as its body and a hideous head on top. It had only one eye and a mouthful of sharp teeth on its head. At this time, it was looking at Lin Yi and Tang Long in the French window. A terrifying aura enveloped Tang Long, and Tang Long felt his whole body was cold. He looked at the dark green eyes on the monster's head and couldn't look away at all. He couldn't move at all, as the monster's eyes seemed to have some kind of magic that affected him. At this moment, a clear voice sounded in his ears. Don't look into its eyes, you will be controlled by it. The next moment, Tang Long suddenly woke up and looked at Lin Yi with fear. What is that? At this time, Tang Long was trembling all over. This was an instinctive reaction to the unknown and incomprehensible existence. That is a creature called a strange existence. They will sneak into one world after another and then bring those worlds into the abyss of destruction. Hearing Lin Yi's words, Tang Long trembled all over. He seemed to see the whole world full of such monsters. Humans were powerless under the power of such monsters and were tortured to death. Instinct told him that all this was true. Will they enter our world? I don't know about that, because this world is weird. But it has nothing to do with you. Now let's talk about your wish. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 676. For example, if you have an urgent wish that you want to fulfill, but you can't do it yourself, you can tell me. Depending on the difficulty of your wish, you will also pay different prices. With me, life, soul, freedom, can all be used as the price of exchange. Listening to Lin Yi's words, Tang Long's face showed a trace of instinctive fear. He knew that what the other party said must be true. Everything he saw and felt just now was not something he had ever heard or seen before. All of them were completely beyond his understanding. Then it is not impossible to use life and soul as the price, just like the devil's deal in myths and legends. He took a deep breath, his mother's face flashed in his mind, and he made a decision in his heart. My mother was captured by the people of YZ country, I want to rescue her. What price do I need to pay? This wish is not difficult, the only difficulty is to find your mother's location and take her away. Your 10 years of life can pay this price. You still have 30 years to live. Once you pay 10 years of life, you will only have 20 years to live. Are you sure you want to make this deal? Lin Yi looked at Tang Long calmly in front of him, and Tang Long nodded fiercely, I agree. Okay, then sign the contract. This is your contract. A note naturally appeared in front of Tang Long. Tang Long looked at the note, which clearly stated the content of their deal. To rescue his mother, he had to pay 10 years of life. Tang Long took a deep breath and wrote his name. When he signed his name, the note spontaneously ignited without wind and disappeared in front of him. A mysterious power connected me to him and Lin Yi. Because this commission happened in this world, Lin Yi had to solve it by himself, and the other people in the Wanchaiwa did not have the ability to solve this matter. Tang Long looked at Lin Yi, and he said with some excitement, what should we do next? Lin Yi smiled and said calmly, next, you have to give me a hair of yours. When Tang Long heard Lin Yi's request, he immediately pulled a hair from his head and put it in front of him. Lin Yi looked at the hair, slowly opened his hands, and then the hair gently floated in front of him. What appeared in front of Tang Long at this time was Lin Yi's human immortal body. I saw a dark and chaotic light emanating from his body. This light quickly evolved in front of Tang Long and turned into a Bagua map. Then the hair fell in the center of the Bagua map. The wonderful power connected to the hair, and the next moment, the pattern on the front of the Bagua map began to rotate rapidly, and quickly evolved into a blurred shadow. This is a secret method obtained from the sect. The Bagua deduction map can be used to infer the target person by blood relationship. As long as there is no one who is proficient in the calculation of the heavenly secrets to cover it up, the target's position can be almost 100% deduced. And for Lin Yi, he is a human immortal body and a heavenly immortal level combat force, so it is almost effortless to infer an ordinary person. In just a few minutes, a clear picture appeared on the Bagua map. In an ordinary YZ-style house, a woman sat in the yard with a helpless look. When Tang Long saw this woman, he immediately showed joy on his face, it's her, it's my mother. Where is he? Lin Yi smiled slightly, don't worry. The picture quickly pulled up, the yard began to shrink rapidly, and the scenery around the yard came into the eyes of the two. Lin Yi took a closer look and memorized the picture. Then the Bagua collapsed into countless light spots, and finally disappeared into the air. The calculation just now consumed 10% of the power of his immortal body. He shook his head slightly, sure enough, if you use any supernatural power in this world, the consumption will increase by hundreds of times. At this time, Tang Long looked at Lin Yi anxiously, what should I do now, sir? Have you found the specific location of my mother? Don't worry, we will go there directly, and then you can bring your mother back to reunite. Tang Long was stunned for a moment, but my mother is in YZ. Distance has never been a problem for me. Lin Yi smiled mysteriously. Wait for me for a moment. Lin Yi got up and walked slowly towards his bedroom, disappearing in front of Tang Long. But in less than a minute, Lin Yi came out again, but this time it was Lin Yi's clone in this world that appeared in front of Tang Long. The physical strength of this clone has reached its limit, and the body structure has also reached perfection under the power system of this world. The only difference is the change in the bone marrow, which has not been cultivated yet and is not in a perfect state. But even so, Lin Yi's body is now at the level of a beast. It's no problem to be able to crush iron into mud. With the power of the true destiny, you can basically walk sideways in this world. And it doesn't need to consume any supernatural power, which is the most suitable for carrying out tasks in this world. Lin Yi looked at Tang Long and waved at him, "Let's go, follow me." As he spoke, he stood in front of the door of the Wanchaiwu, and the scene he had just seen flashed through his mind. There was a slight fluctuation of strange power at the door of the Wanchaiwu. The power of the Anywhere door was activated. Lin Yi gently pushed open the Anywhere door, and they appeared directly in a yard. At this time, there was a woman in the yard, looking up at the sky. There was a bright moon and endless stars in the sky. She seemed to be missing her son far away, and her face was full of sorrow. Tang Long followed Lin Yi through the Anywhere door and came to this yard, and saw his mother at a glance. He couldn't help but screamed, "Mom!" The woman heard the voice, trembled all over, and suddenly turned her head to see Lin Yi and her son Tang Long appearing in the yard. Her eyes were filled with tears in an instant, and she looked at Tang Long with an incredible face. "Tang Long? Is it really you?" At this time, Tang Long could no longer bear it, and rushed over in a few steps and hugged the woman at once. He said excitedly, "Mom, it's me, I'm Tang Long, I finally see you again. Son. Woo woo woo." The woman could no longer hold back her excitement and sadness, and burst into tears. This year, she had experienced countless times of fear, in this completely strange country, facing those completely strange people. They always threatened her, asking her to write to her son according to their words. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 677. For the safety of herself and her son, she had to obey the threat of the other party, and her heart was full of pain. Now seeing her son again, she turned all the pain in her heart into tears. At this time, she suddenly said in panic, "Son, why are you here? Have you been caught by them?" Tang Long looked up at his mother, shook his head and said, "Mom, don't worry about me. I asked a master to come and save you. We can leave here soon. I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow. Leave? Who allowed you to leave? It's really strange, how did you get in?" Silently, three ninja-like people appeared in the yard. The leader was wearing a black samurai suit, with a gloomy face and eyes as sharp as a blade. He held a samurai sword in his hand and looked at Lin Yi and Tang Long quietly. His eyes were full of doubts, and he saw the door behind them at the same time. His pupils shrank slightly, and a thought flashed through his mind. Why is there a door here? What is inside? Is this a trick? All kinds of incredible thoughts flashed through his mind. Clang! With a flash of knife light, the samurai had already drawn the samurai sword in his hand. The two ninjas behind him also drew their sharp blades and surrounded Lin Yi, Tang Long and others from three directions. At this time, Tang Long was very nervous, and immediately protected his mother behind him, and quickly retreated to Lin Yi's side. "Mr. Lin, what should we do now?" His right hand had silently touched his waist, where there was a pistol. But he didn't dare to act rashly, because the samurai gave him a feeling of extreme danger. And the distance between them and the samurai was only 4 or 5 meters. The other party was definitely a powerful warrior. This distance was reached in a flash, and he was afraid that he would be killed by the other party before he even pulled out his gun. As a member of the Secret Service, his understanding of this world far exceeded that of ordinary people. He had seen more than once how terrifying martial arts masters were, especially when they had weapons in their hands. Within 10 steps, all the people were enemies. No matter what kind of modern weapons, facing such a top martial artist, there was no chance to use them within 10 steps. Lin Yi shook his hand slightly at him. Take your mother back, you don't need to intervene here. It's clearly written in the contract, take your mother back to H country safely. Hearing this, Tang Long turned his head and looked at Lin Yi. Thinking of the other party's mysterious methods, he immediately knew that the 3 people in front of him might not pose any threat to him. He nodded gratefully. Okay, then I'll leave it to you, Mr. Lin. He turned his head and looked at his mother immediately. Mom, let's go. As he said that, he had already pulled his mother and walked in the direction they came from. The arbitrary door there was still open. As long as he stepped into the arbitrary door, he could take his mother back to H country directly. At this time, the warrior in black watched him leave quietly, and did not stop him. All his energy was already on Lin Yi, as if he was facing a great enemy. I'm Ichiro Watanabe, what should I call you? My name is Lin Yi, the owner of the Wanchai. My job is to fulfill some people's wishes in exchange for their rewards. The rewards I need are mostly life, soul, or freedom, or something valuable. When Ichiro Watanabe heard Lin Yi's words, he suddenly felt an inexplicable chill in his heart. Ichiro Watanabe had learned the language of H country, so he could talk to Lin Yi. You can understand the meaning of Lin Yi's words, looking at the mysterious door behind Lin Yi. At this time, Tang Long and his mother were about to enter. He knew he couldn't wait any longer, and there was a trace of indifference on his face. Although I don't know whether what you said is true or false, these 2 people must stay. Lin Yi smiled. This is impossible. Mr. Tang Long has signed a contract with me, and I must take his mother away. If you stop me, I will have to kill you. Lin Yi's words were very calm, without any emotion, but it sounded like thunder in Ichiro Watanabe's ears, making him cold all over. An instinct made him understand that what the man in front of him said seemed to be true, and the other party could really beat him to death. An instinctive fear rose in his heart. But the next moment, Watanabe Ichiro's face showed a look of shame and anger. No one has ever dared to threaten me, you are the first. A thought flashed through his mind, cutting off his inner fear, and his mind was highly concentrated. He held the samurai sword in both hands and stared at Lin Yi. He was looking for Lin Yi's flaws. As long as the other party showed a flaw, he would immediately kill him. At this time, the light of the true destiny flashed in Lin Yi's eyes, and he saw through all the information in this person's body at once. Perfect body, this person's body structure has reached perfection, from muscles to internal organs, bone marrow has undergone changes, perfect coordination without any flaws. In the process of growth, the human body will always cause physical defects due to external environment or diet and other reasons. These defects may be very small and subtle, and may not even have any impact on daily life, but they do exist. Martial arts is to reverse this defect and present the state that the original gene should present. At the same time, on this basis, the body structure is changed to a certain extent, becoming a more powerful perfect body, infinitely close to the physical limit of the human body. And the person in front of him, in terms of physics, has basically approached the limit that his body can bear. Lin Yi's heart moved. Maybe I can fight with him and see. Maybe I can learn the method of cultivating bone marrow from him. Thinking of this, his body moved, and he walked directly towards Watanabe Ichiro. Step by step, approaching the opponent's attack range. Watanabe Ichiro was suddenly shocked. He didn't expect that the opponent would dare to enter his attack range with bare hands when he was holding a weapon. He didn't know whether the opponent was really stupid or just showing off. But he knew that his chance had come, and a trace of ferocity appeared on his face. No matter what you are, if you enter my attack range with bare hands, even a martial arts saint will lose a layer of skin. The next moment, he made a move. A bright knife light rose up, like a crescent moon appeared from his hand, and cut towards Lin Yi's chest. The knife light was in front of Lin Yi in the blink of an eye, but Lin Yi seemed to be scared and didn't react at all. At this time, Tang Long and his mother had entered the Wanchaiwu and turned to look at Lin Yi and others in the yard. Seeing the brilliant knife light, Tang Long immediately screamed, "Get out of the way! The house of everything I created." Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 678. But Lin Yi didn't seem to care about his reminder. Watanabe Chiro watched his knife cut through Lin Yi's body. He couldn't believe it would go so smoothly. But the next moment, he noticed the problem. He didn't feel like he had hit a solid object at all. At this moment, he looked at Lin Yi and instantly noticed something was wrong. His knife didn't leave any traces on the other party at all. Lin Yi seemed to have never existed in front of him, like a phantom. In an instant, he thought of something. The saint knows it, distorts the senses. In an instant, he knew why. No, this person has reached the realm of the mind, he has affected my senses, and all I see are illusions. Thinking of this, he was horrified and closed his eyes in an instant. All the cells in his body were mobilized under his spirit. He raised his sensory system to the extreme, and his whole body made a rumbling sound. It was as if the machine was running and the river was washing. At this time, Lin Yi was using the True Destiny Unlimited and True Destiny Deja, so he completely ignored his attack. His eyes were observing the physical condition of Watanabe Chiro. A huge roar sounded in the other party's body, and he could see it clearly. It was caused by the rapid circulation of blood. At this moment, Watanabe Chiro's body produced a large amount of chemical energy. The chemical energy system of his body has become completely bright. The brilliance of each node has reached the maximum, and a huge energy force field has been generated inside the body. All the energy is concentrated at one point under the influence of the force field. At this moment, Watanabe Chiro seemed to have entered a new realm in an extremely dangerous state. His mind was in a state of confusion and fell into a void, reflecting everything around him. But in his mind, except for the two people behind him, the whole yard was empty. There was no figure of Lin Yi at all. He was terrified all over, and suddenly he couldn't bear it anymore and opened his eyes. The ethereal state could not be maintained in an instant. He looked at Lin Yi in front of him with fear and disbelief, as if he had seen a ghost. The other party was standing in front of him, 1 meter away, looking at him calmly. How is it possible? Is this the realm of the saint and the wise? This is too terrifying. He was shivering all over, and the next moment, he could no longer bear it. The energy gathered in his body burst out instantly, along the energy system, and rushed into his whole body. He gathered all his strength in a knife, and his body was perfectly controlled. The knife light that burst out directly tore the air. A knife energy appeared out of nowhere, directly penetrated Ling Linyi, and even cut a 1 meter long crack on the ground. But something happened that made Watanabe Chiro despair. Linyi still stood in front of him without any damage, looking down at him. Watanabe Chiro's face was pale, and he sat on the ground with his buttocks, his pores opened, sweat poured down, and white mist gushed out of his body. In the previous knife, he had exhausted all his strength, and huge heat accumulated in his body, evaporating the water in his body. I lost. Who are you? Linyi did not answer him, but just looked at him quietly, frowned slightly, and thought about something. Just now when this man performed his killing move, he saw something. The opponent's body was linked together like a machine, and each muscle, bone, and internal organs had different ways of moving power. This also included the vibration of the bone marrow, which produced violent vibrations along with the opponent's breathing. Then the energy system connected to the bone marrow became brighter. He basically understood the method of cultivating the bone marrow, using specific resonance to physically strengthen the bone marrow. However, this method is very dangerous. The bone marrow is the most vulnerable part of the human body. It is a very dangerous behavior to exercise the bone marrow. However, this is not difficult for Lin Yi. After understanding the principle, he wanted to create a perfect bone marrow exercise method by himself, which is also very simple. And there is energy to be consumed, which makes it even easier. With a satisfied smile, he glanced at Watanabe Chiro, who fell to the ground. "Since you let me see something, I will spare your life." At this time, Watanabe Chiro did not dare to say a word. He just looked at Lin Yi in fear until the other party disappeared into the gate in the yard. The gate slowly disappeared in the eyes of Watanabe Chiro, and the two ninjas behind him, who seemed to be his subordinates, also trembled. The three of them encountered incredible things tonight. This incident was enough for them to remember for a lifetime. At this time, noisy footsteps suddenly sounded outside the yard. A group of fully armed soldiers rushed in, and the leading officer looked at Watanabe Chiro sitting on the ground. His face changed slightly, and he immediately came over. "What's wrong with Watanabe-kun? Why are you sitting on the ground? Where is that old woman?" Watanabe Chiro looked at the officer next to him with a pale face. There was a trace of fear in his eyes. "He was taken away. I met a monster." This officer knew Watanabe Chiro. He knew the other party's ability very well, one of the younger generation of swordsmanship masters in YZ. The opponent's swordsmanship has almost touched the edge of the Tao and is impacting the highest realm. But now, the opponent is actually scared like this. It can be seen that he must have encountered something unimaginable. His pupils shrank, and he thought of what might happen next. Tang Long's mother is missing, and their control over Tang Long will be greatly reduced. His face showed a trace of solemnity. Tang Long's mother's disappearance must not be known to him. "I will report to the military immediately. Watanabe-kun, please come with me. The military needs your explanation." At this time, Watanabe Chiro has recovered slightly from the shock and disbelief. He took a deep breath, stood up from the ground, and looked at the two men behind him. "You come with me, and no one is allowed to leak what happened tonight." "Hi. Hi." After that, the group left quickly. YZ Kingdom, Imperial Capital, Imperial Military. An emergency meeting is being held, and all the high-level officials of the Empire's secret service agencies are attending the meeting. And Watanabe Chiro and his two men have appeared opposite them. The Black Sun, the Supreme Commander of the Imperial Intelligence Department, Black Sheep Taro. He looked at Watanabe Chiro with cold eyes. "Watanabe Chiro, what happened today? Why did Tang Long's mother disappear from our surveillance area?" You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 679. You are a serious dereliction of duty as a guard. Even if you are Mr. Miyamoto's disciple, if you can't give a reasonable explanation, the military court will be your only way. Watanabe Chiro, with his body straight, bent down heavily. "Hey, it is a serious dereliction of duty for me. I dare not make any rebuttal. But I hope you can listen to everything that happened tonight." Kuro Yang Taro looked at Watanabe Chiro and nodded slightly. "You can talk, we will all listen." There are three people sitting in front of Watanabe Chiro. In addition to the leader of the Black Sun, Kuro Yang Taro, the other two are the deputy leaders of the Black Sun, Bailong Tai and Yoshita Onita. Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow. The situation of G. The three looked at Watanabe Chiro coldly and ruthlessly, hoping to hear a reasonable explanation from him. Conan took a deep breath, and a trace of solemnity appeared in his eyes. "Here's what happened. I was on my daily guard duty tonight. But suddenly I heard a strange sound coming from Tang Long's mother's yard. Then I rushed in immediately, and then something happened that I couldn't understand. A few minutes later, Ichiro Watanabe told the three leaders of the Black Sun in front of him all the information he saw with fear and disbelief. The three listened to Ichiro Watanabe's words, and their faces were full of disbelief. He looked at him like an idiot. Are you dreaming? Or do you think we will believe it if you make up a story? Or do you think your teacher is Mr. Miyamoto, so we will believe your nonsense? Black Sheep Taro's face was ashen, and his eyes looked at Ichiro Watanabe with increasingly cold eyes. A terrifying atmosphere instantly filled the entire conference hall. A hell seemed to rise in this world, and Ichiro Watanabe felt that his spirit was dragged into an infinite hell. Countless ghosts and gods looked at him, as if they were going to dismember him. Watanabe Ichiro suppressed the terror in his heart. Sir, I am absolutely not lying. And my two men, they also saw it? If you don't believe it, you can interrogate them. Hearing this, the hellish world disappeared instantly, and Kuroyataro's cold eyes fell on the two ninjas behind him. Is what Watanabe Ichiro said true? Hey, sir, Mr. Watanabe Ichiro said it's true, we all saw it tonight. That incredible scene. Kuroyataro's eyes sank slightly, and all kinds of thoughts flashed through his mind. How could this happen? Could it be that a master of Shen-Er Mingzi appeared? The mind distorted their senses and made them see hallucinations. There is only this one possibility. We have long been sure that there is no myth in this world. But Shen-Er Mingzi's existence, as long as he enters the imperial capital city, will never disappear from my perception. There is definitely a huge problem here. Could it be that they have mastered some new means to block my perception? He turned his eyes to look at Bai Longtai and Yoshita Onita. You don't feel anything either. The two shook their heads grimly. No. So now there may be only one explanation, that a master from China who has mastered the mysterious shielding secret method has entered Tokyo City. Not good. Notify the palace immediately, His Majesty is in danger. Hearing the hot words, Bai Longtai and Yaxia Gishin were shocked at the same time. The scalp numbed, and three terrifying auras rose instantly. The entire military seemed to be shrouded in an era of demon rebirth, and everyone's mind seemed to see the terrifying world slowly descending. A wisp of invisible spiritual communication instantly connected to a person in the palace. This is a mysterious priest who looks about 30 years old, with a handsome face and wearing a red and white robe. He was filled with a natural breath all over his body, as if he was the incarnation of Tao. At this time, he felt three terrifying auras rising from the military, as well as the telepathy from the dark. He frowned slightly and disappeared in a flash. Several people have already arrived at His Majesty's bedroom. Silently guarding in front of His Majesty's gate, his mind could feel His Majesty's stable spirit, no change. At this time, the two warriors guarding the door of the palace seemed not to see him, and still looked around with vigilant eyes. Looking at these guards, the mysterious priest shook his head. Ordinary people are really useless. He slowly restrained his spiritual influence. At this time, the two guards found him, and after seeing his appearance and uniform, they immediately knelt on one knee. High Priest. Report to His Majesty, I have important things to report. Hi. After saying that, one of the warriors immediately stood up, gently opened the door of the palace, and walked in a few steps. After he went in, he stayed for a few minutes and came out. High Priest, His Majesty has gotten up, please go in. The High Priest nodded and entered the palace expressionlessly. This is a huge empty hall of at least 300 square meters. At this time, a man in a black kimono was sitting on a soft couch, looking at him quietly. This man looked to be in his 50s, with a cold face and a cold look in his eyes. What's the matter, High Priest? Why are you looking for me in the middle of the night? The High Priest looked at the king in front of him and slowly sat down opposite him. Just now, there was news that a mysterious strong man entered the imperial city. He took away a hostage under our control and hid it from all of us. It is speculated that he should be from country H. The king frowned slightly. Country H? That place has been mysterious since ancient times. Those traitors and human bastards disappeared somewhere during the time we were sealed. But what is certain is that they must have hidden. In these thousands of years, I don't know how far they have developed. The technology developed during this period is so powerful that it is incredible. Even we can't confront them head on. We can only possess those in high positions and use human power to target the humans on that land. Maybe the people who took action this time are those bastards. Wait here quietly. If they dare to appear here, take them down. The high priest nodded slightly. Yes, Your Majesty the Emperor. Retreat. The high priest nodded slightly and slowly left the palace. The high priest stood quietly outside the palace gate, his eyes slightly closed as if he was lost in thought. The two guards beside him did not look away and continued to do their work. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 680. This night was destined to be an uneasy night. Undercurrents surged in the imperial capital, and some people were secretly trying to find out what happened. In the Wanqi house, Lin Yi looked at Tang Long and his mother. The two were reunited and were communicating with joy. Lin Yi looked at Tang Long and said calmly, "Now it's over. Then our deal is over, and the contract is reached." When Tang Long heard this, his face froze slightly, and then he turned his head and smiled at Lin Yi. "Yes, our deal is over, thank you." At this time, a mysterious force slowly appeared and quickly enveloped Tang Long. I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow dot. A trace of mysterious milky white breath floated out from his body, gathered in front of Lin Yi, and turned into a milky white round bead. Tang Long's mother looked at the milky white light floating from Tang Long's body, and suddenly her face showed shock and uneasiness. "Son, what's going on? What happened to you?" Tang Long turned to look at his mother and smiled slightly. "Nothing, don't worry, Mom, I just made a deal with him, and I have to pay some price. This is Manager Lin Yi, a mysterious man who can fulfill some impossible wishes. It's all thanks to the deal I made with him that I can save you. Don't worry, I won't be in any serious trouble." At this time, Tang Long's mother's face changed drastically. He knew that his son must have paid an unimaginable price. He knew Tang Long's character too well. At this time, Tang Long's face quickly became a little older with the withdrawal of his life. Tang Long's mother looked at Tang Long's changes, and her face suddenly became uglier. "Son, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with you?" Her face showed panic, and Tang Long took his mother's hand and said, "Let's go, Mom." At this time, the brilliance on his body had slowly disappeared, and Tang Long had already pulled his mother to push open the door of the Wanchaiwu. Outside was the hotel where he lived, and he returned here again and passed through the door of the Wanchaiwu. Next, he will have to face complicated things. The news of his mother's disappearance will soon be heard by the Black Dragon Society leader Miyamoto Yuichi. At that time, the other party will definitely send someone to find him, or even kill him. He must hurry up to arrange for his mother and at the same time have a conclusion to this matter. At this time, Lin Yi's business card appeared in his pocket again, and at the same time, Lin Yi's business card also appeared in Tang Long's mother's pocket. Watching Tang Long and his mother disappear in the Wanchaiwu returned to peace again. And Lin Yi sat in his seat and began to think about the marrow washing secret method he saw today. This marrow washing secret method was seen from Watanabe Chiro. Although it was only one kind, Lin Yi had already understood the principle. At this time, his main body began to deduce the secret method in detail, and the Tiangxiandao was used for 100 and 1,000 uses. Countless possibilities flashed in his mind, and the powerful computing power quickly completed the basic deduction. A perfect bone marrow cultivation method has appeared in Lin Yi's mind. The body of the clone began to tremble slightly, and all the muscles, bones, and fascia were shaking at an alarming speed. And this vibration soon spread to the bone marrow, and began to exert a certain degree of resonance on the bone marrow. The spinal cord in the bone marrow began to be slightly affected. Moreover, the energy in the main body was injected into the body of the clone along an unknown channel. The bone marrow changed rapidly under the injection of energy, and the damage would be repaired quickly, and the resonance of continuous damage would continue to repair. In just a dozen minutes, the bone marrow had naturally grown to the physical limit, and the cells became stronger and stronger. The blood began to reconstruct, and the heavy blood was quickly decomposed, converted into nutrients, and then absorbed. The fresh blood was more powerful, slowly flowing out of the spinal cord and spreading throughout the body, making Lin Yi's clone feel a warm feeling. His whole body was full of strength, and his body was also nourished by blood. The endless influx of energy made his body begin to store this energy. After completing the strengthening of his body, Lin Yi quickly discovered some disadvantages of cultivation in this world. First of all, the energy that can be extracted from food alone is difficult to support the current body, because too much food is needed. You have to eat at least 100 kilograms of meat every day to maintain the consumption of this body. And after eating, you have to consider digestion, absorption, and going to the toilet. Basically, there are not many other things in a day. After feeling this kind of thing, Lin Yi has roughly understood that if you want to cultivate to the current level in this world, there must be a special diet. A diet that can maintain the pure physical consumption of this body will not be in a state of eating all day because it is too strong. But when the body has reached this point, it is impossible to go further. Because the external environment can no longer make the body make stronger progress. Unless there is a stronger food with more energy, it can solve the body's digestion, absorption, and consumption problems. Everything in the world is balanced, and an extremely strong body must require a strong energy supply. This world only has chemical energy supply, so eating is a threshold that cannot be bypassed. However, Lin Yi and his companions have enough energy to bypass the problem of diet and easily train their bodies to the peak state. The pills can solve this problem. There are too many low-level pills in the Red Lotus realm. Lin Yi has exchanged countless resources from the sect, including various pills. For example, there are at least hundreds of thousands of pills specially supplied to the mortal and immortal ways, which are enough for countless years. And these pills are made of pure medicinal materials, not pure energy, and can be made even in this world. As long as you find medicinal materials with the same medicinal properties, you can complete it after improvement. Thinking of this, Lin Yi found another way to make money. But he naturally won't do this kind of pill refining and selling, which is a waste of time and energy, and he doesn't need the money of this world. But he can improve this single prescription. If someone from this world comes to the Xuanhuan again in the future and happens to be a warrior, then he will have another item to trade. A pill formula that can satisfy their digestion is definitely a profitable business. As long as it is operated properly, the profit obtained is simply unimaginable. But if I want to research this single shot, I must re-recognize the materials in this world and see the actual materials. Now Lin Yi is thinking about the future development of the Xuanhuan.